Hi, I'm Beth.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is the XX Podcast. So today, thanks to popular Facebook poll, we're talking about the 2009 film 2012.
Yeah, so it was directed by Roland Emmerich.
Emmerich?
I'm going to go
Germanic?
with Emmerich.
Okay, Emmerich.
Roland Emmerich.
What else did Roland Emmerich direct so that we can get a good impression of this?
He also directed Independence Day, Independence Day Resurgence, things like Day After Tomorrow, which will actually tie in quite well, and White House Down.
Okay,
among
so
various other things.
An intellectual director of the nth level. Very, very highbrow.
Yes.
Really.
And likes it when the world ends, basically.
Yeah. Action movie. It's an action movie, which was great fun. An apocalyptic action movie.
Yeah, I actually saw this when it was in the cinema with my family, and I don't think anybody got up when it finished. We just sort of sat there like, okay.
So, this film, in January 2011, apparently NASA named it the most scientifically inaccurate film to date, although after a little bit of internet research there is debate on whether NASA actually named it that, but they did say that it contributed to a mass hysteria because at the time there was actually a genuine worry that the world was going to end in 2012. Obviously, sitting here from our high and mighty perch in 2016, we
know that didn't happen.
The glory of hindsight.
Did not end even once.
No. But NASA did say that they actually had to make a special website to, like, essentially an FAQ page to debunk all the questions that people were asking about how the world was going to end in 2012, which they said they'd never had to do before.
People were really worried.
People were concerned.
But I don't think it was necessarily a genuine concern so much as just a concern that people were sort of panicking about. The term genuine makes it sound like it's founded on anything real.
I read as well that the original prediction was apparently 2003, not 2012, and then the world didn't end in 2003, so they just shifted it a bit. So I think that the apocalypse, we keep predicting it and it keeps not happening, so we keep just going, oh, when should we set the date for the next apocalypse then?
I feel like it's almost wishful thinking. They're like, well, it didn't happen that time, should we try again in a few years?
Yeah, so the big thing, of course, was that it was predicted by the Mayan calendar that the world would end in December the 21st, 2012, I think.
Possibly.
Or December the 13th. There were a few.
I think there's a lot of different variations on it because it's not very concrete. The Mayan calendar itself.
You say not very concrete, whereas the Mayan calendar itself was made of rock. Hey!
Oh God.
Yeah, bad pun.
Yeah.
Payback. So the Mayan calendar thing, the problem with it is that the Mayan calendar is exactly the same as our calendar, as in...
Yeah, so it comes to an end at some point.
Yeah, so it would basically be like if an archaeologist found one of our standard wall calendars and went, oh no, this only goes up to 2023, or the world's going to end in 2023. I don't know why an archaeologist would be looking at a 2016 wall calendar,
that's just
but
someone who's dumpster diving there.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's like, oh, the world ends in December because this particular calendar doesn't go any further.
I think as well, because of the time that it would have been made, 2012 would have been so far in the future. I think they probably would have thought, like, well, what's the point going much further? Because it's a long way in the future. We're going to have plenty of calendar up until then.
I think everyone just took it really seriously because it was. Again,
was it taken seriously before this? Before the film and the hype?
Yeah, no, it was. It was a little bit, but like, I think it was taken so seriously because it was literally set in stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, set in stone. That's a phrase we use every day to mean it's gonna happen. The Mayans literally wrote it in stone. Oh no, it's gonna happen.
I think a lot of people also stockpiled goods and things like that. I sort of remember.
Yeah.
A little bit of panic among my friends, but we were. How old? I was like 11. No, I was 21. I was not 11.
It was only 4 years ago.
It was only 4 years ago. Yeah, there was some panic, but not to the extent of actually buying survival kits.
Oh, well,
learning to fly planes.
No, we've kind of forgotten to actually go through the premise of the film.
Oh,
because it's just
the actual film itself. Would you argue there is much story to it?
somehow, no. Despite the fact that it's almost 3 hours long.
It is. It's about 2.5 hours long, or like 2 hours.
2:47, I think. I mean, that includes credits. But
it's not just that the world ends. The world
ends about 5 times.
Yeah, so thoroughly is it destroyed. And also in lots of different ways. So in some scenes it would cut like to a different location. That just the level of destruction there would be a completely different kind of destruction.
Well, because we kind of really. Talking about it after we finished watching it and just went, they've just gotten together like a group of people and gone, right, if I say apocalypse, you say what? And then just written everything down and then gone, right, we have to put all of these in the movie. Literally everything you've said must be in the film.
Yeah, so like the surface of the earth cracked, everything fell into it, the ocean came onto land and started messing around there, and then it didn't fall down the cracks though. The ocean stayed on top of the ground. The ground fell into the sea. Mountains
through the hole
collapsed.
in the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
Because the Earth's crust doesn't include the sea. The sea is not on the surface of the Earth.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with that.
That's what the film is apparently saying. So, yeah, to debunk a couple of things about the film, we're not going to go through the plot. There is no plot. Watch it. It's quite funny. It's not a bad film. It's not a bad film. It's too long.
Long and watchable.
Yeah. I'd say watch like maybe 3/4 of it.
Yeah, you could probably watch it like on 2 times speed and still understand it just the same.
I reckon that you could probably just watch the second half and still get a good general feel of the film. But then you might miss out on the ever famous line that the neutrinos have mutated.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So
that was the reason. The whole reason behind the end of the world is that a kind of particle has mutated.
Neutrinos, which are a real thing that exist.
Yeah,
this is something that we and Scientific American agree on, is that, like, I said it at the time, I was like, neutrinos, could they not just have made up a new particle?
Yeah, and that would have been something very easy to do if you consider how many
scaremongering.
Yeah. How many jumps they make and like assumptions they make for the plot to work.
So many.
They definitely could have just been like, let's call it a flutrino.
Yeah, and that mutated and heat up the Earth's core and make the surface melt.
Yes. So if it was going to heat up the Earth's core, other effects.
Science says that if neutrinos worked in the way that they claim to, the outside of the Earth would cook first. The film tries to counteract this by saying it's going to work like a microwave, but it just wouldn't if they're using neutrinos in the way it would. I mean, a microwave would work in that way, but they don't talk about
a microwave.
It's not light.
They very specifically decided it was going to be neutrinos.
Mutated neutrinos.
Neutrinos.
No, I think that might be it. No, muons are a thing, aren't they?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, physics words. Exactly. They sound made up anyway. Make up a new one.
Yeah.
Sorry, physicists. Your words sound made up. But yeah, I mean, I wrote down while we were watching the film, what is a solar climax? A solar climax is an actual thing.
Okay.
And it was predicted for the end of 2012. No, it wasn't.
No, it was predicted for May 2013.
Yeah, it was actually predicted for May 2013, so there was one, but it doesn't do anything.
And who predicted it?
Oh, gosh.
NOAA.
Which is like the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, which is really hard to say, and I don't know why. Sorry. If high-energy neutrinos were to happen...
Mm-hmm.
Scientific American, there's quite a good article about how funny 2012 is. If it were to happen, it wouldn't make a very good film because everyone would get cancer and die.
Yeah, that'd be really sad.
Yeah, it wouldn't make a good apocalypse
film. A lot slower.
Film. Yeah, well, maybe not if it was like super cancer.
Cancer of the everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are quite quick.
Yeah, so yeah, it wouldn't, if neutrinos were to cause humans harm, which is unlikely, listeners, don't run around and being like, the sun's neutrinos are going to give everyone cancer.
Really minimal effect, like really minimal interaction with anything.
Yeah, neutrinos are, anything with nu in physics is generally called nu because it's neutral and doesn't interact with things.
Nice clarification.
Yeah. So that is why neutrinos is a really silly thing to say. What else were we talking about? Oh yeah, they decided to check, like, to prove that neutrinos were heating up the Earth's core by checking it with a tank of boiling water that was buried quite deep within the crust.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like... But if you buried a tank of water deep in the Earth's crust, it would boil anyway on a normal day.
Yeah, if you go down deep enough, it will get hot enough.
And it's nothing
to
to do
boil.
with the Earth's core either. That's the magma that exists. Magma. Oh, magnetic reversal is mentioned in passing. They kind of go, what was it? Oh, that's the North Pole. Actually, no, that's the South Pole or something.
Yeah, I think because all the continents have shifted around and they get a bit confused and a bit scared.
That does happen, but every 400,000 years, it's completely unrelated to the Earth's core liquefying.
And it doesn't really cause that much effect.
No, just life goes on. Basically.
Yeah, life very much does go on.
And, they talk about the planetary alignment thing as well, causing massive damage.
Mm-hmm.
There have been planetary alignments, recent ones, in 1962, 1982, and the year 2000, with no consequences to Earth.
It's not possible for all the planets to align, is it?
I don't know. I don't know what level of planetary alignment that was. But yeah, it was a bit daft. We also spent quite a lot of the film talking about how silly it was that they kept showing a cruise ship being very unstable and tipping to ridiculous degrees.
Oh, what, flying amongst all the buildings and things?
No, the cruise ship, the boat.
Oh, the boat. Sorry,
the boat.
I was thinking aeroplanes.
Yes, the cruise ship, the sky cruise ship.
I mean, I'm not wrong. Cruisers, and it's a kind of ship.
They cruise in the air, I guess.
An airship.
Yes, okay, legitimate thing. But yeah,
they're very stable.
A small wave that caused quite a large tilt.
I think that the captain abandoned.
Before the tsunamis happened, a rather small wave.
Oh, even when it's just in the harbour.
In the harbour,
yeah,
it tilts dramatically.
I would not get on the boat if that happened and it was still in harbour.
No, and it just doesn't happen, and especially as the government's overall solution to the apocalypse is to build a massive ship.
Oh yeah, they build a series of huge, what they call arcs, and load them up with art.
Yeah,
animals,
don't
elephants.
Be knocking art.
Giraffes. I'm not knocking art.
Yeah,
but, like,
we
could
got
fit
annoyed
so many
at
more
that as
people
well
on there.
because they decided to load the giraffes onto the ships in crates, but fly them through the Chinese mountains. Oh. Was it the Himalayas particular?
They're definitely by the Everest.
By the Everest. Again, apparently Everest is now in China rather than Nepal, because all of the troops there...
accuracy was definitely not high up there on their list. But yeah, they're in China, in the Himalayas.
I'm sure there's part of the Himalayas in China. I think it's the border, but I'm pretty sure Everest is in Nepal. But anyway, yeah. So they decide to fly African land mammals. African. They like hot through the very snowy mountains. And then put them in a box once they're inside. And I was like, just put the giraffe in a box already. I mean, you could just write giraffe on the side and it would probably cost you a lot less in CGI. Although I doubt cost of CGI came into effect at all in this film.
No, there was a lot of special effects used. A lot of explosions, a lot of general green screening.
It was quite fun.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was fun watching people run around, screaming.
But I think the thing that we can agree on is that the least accurate part of this film was the Tibetan monks. Tibet, exactly. They were in Tibet, not China. Anyway.
I think they were everywhere.
Yeah, they were just generic Asia, I think, was kind of where they ended up. Yeah. But yeah, so the Tibetan monks are sharing tea. We didn't have subtitles, so we had no idea what was going on. Yeah. But we knew they were having tea. And the sort of elder monk poured tea from the pot into the cup of the younger monk. And it was milky.
Yeah, it was pre-milked tea.
One, any kind of Asian teas, Chinese teas,
generally,
no milk, please. No. Two, you don't put milk in the teapot before you pour it.
I think that speaks volumes about what Americans think about tea and how it works.
I think so I think we can agree that that's the least accurate part of the whole film. Absolutely. Is highly tea inaccuracies, which I guess shows you how ridiculously British Hannah and I are, is that we were like, stop drinking tea. Stop the tape. The tea is wrong. Like, with everything else going on, we were like, oh, this is fine, but no, the tea was wrong, and that wasn't okay.
There was quite a bad representation of women in the film, I feel.
God. Yeah.
Not in terms of
They just weren't there.
Yeah, they weren't there. The women that were there, so there was the wife of the scientist, right, in the opening scene. She says she's made a curry for this guy, the curry that he likes.
Yeah, that was very...
And the scientist said, like, oh yeah, her cooking hasn't improved, and she was just trying to be nice.
See, I got
just
really
slags her off for no reason.
I got really distracted by the Indian scientist because he actually plays the book in Ella Enchanted, which is like all I could talk about the whole movie. I was like, is that the book guy? Google, tell me if it's the book guy. And I highly doubt many of you have watched Ella Enchanted, but for the few of you that do, you can understand why that's very distracting.
I don't think I've seen it.
Not sci-fi at all. Pure fantasy, but it's quite funny. It's good. Anne Hathaway.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. Good book as well. Very different book from film. Yeah, and then there was the bit... We did say that basically there's a family where the parents have split.
Yeah. And
the wife has kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Boyfriend, I think. And the mother... There's a conversation in the supermarket where the new boyfriend basically reveals that the mother had been in med school and quit to raise children. Yeah. Which I think is, like... For a film where women have major screen time of about 3 minutes in a 3-hour film, they do make an interesting point about
it does
kind of the sacrifice that some women do make for children.
I remember when I was at university, they would say to us, like, if you want to go into academia, having kids or taking any time off for your family is going to severely damage your career. Because if you've got any gaps in the research that you've done, regardless of what the reason is, they're just going to consider that like that's one less paper that you've done than the next guy.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
That actual conversation that they had, it was the mum and the new partner in the supermarket. I found really strange because he's just going on at her about what a waste of space her previous husband was.
Yeah,
and I just think like you shouldn't really question her choice of partner.
Yeah, because you're the next one.
Yeah, you're her choice as well. And it just seemed really disrespectful. And he just was going on, and she was trying to brush it off, and he wouldn't have any of it. And then they had a great metaphor where they were like, he said, "There's something pushing us apart," and then the floor
there's something between us.
The floor opened up and pushed them apart.
The giant fissure caused by the apocalypse.
Exactly.
Apocalypse fissure ruining relationships since 2012.
Yes.
But yeah, other women in the film. I think there were four women in the whole film, which was wife of one scientist, wife of protagonist.
Yeah. And then also the
love interest journalist daughter.
Which one's
the
that?
president's daughter.
Oh yeah, the president's daughter, and then also
Angela
the
Merkel.
Russian. What?
Angela Merkel. Okay, there were 5 women.
Oh, okay. Angela Merkel comes in briefly.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Then the Russian like. Trophy wife, I guess, trophy person. Because I don't think he marries her. I think that's the point, is that he keeps her around and makes her get a boob job, and she's talking at one point about how she didn't want one.
Yeah, and that's why it's okay that she cheated on him with Sergei. Sasha.
It was Sasha. Yeah. And he was called Yuri.
Yeah.
The Russian guy.
The Russian oligarch, I think, was kind of his.
What's that?
I don't actually know what it means, but I know it's
Rich
often
guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what it means.
I feel like that might not be culturally
I'm going to get an angry phone call from my mum now trying to define what oligarch is.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mum.
He has this trophy lady, and she's not really that much of a character. It's quite a caricature of
an oligarchy is a small group of people having control of a country or organisation.
I feel like he might not have been that.
No, he was just rich. Rich Russian.
I'm going to say just rich.
Yeah, really rich. But yeah.
It was an interesting point that she raised, though. She said, I didn't want to have a boob job because I liked my body how it was before.
Yeah.
But again, that was a throwaway comment that she was having in a conversation she was having with another man.
The bizarre, throwaway comments in this film, the women-y ones, are so strange just because...
They are really strange. It's a strange film.
It's like, oh, we're not going to really put any women in our movie. Oh, but when they are on screen, we'll give them some pretty good lines. Like, what?
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange. Oh, and then, of course, there was a tiny Asian girl who was adorable. The toddler.
Oh yeah, in the scene where the jazz musician calls his son to make amends.
Yeah.
And the little girl picks up the phone and she's adorable, and then the house is destroyed.
Again, you know what we were saying about there being like a plot meeting and everyone just went, these are our ideas, and they decided to include all of them? I think that was one plot line that was come up with in that meeting.
Yeah, because it literally, you don't even know that guy necessarily has any family until he tries to call them, because I think they were probably like, let's make him likeable.
Yeah.
Give him a family. Give the man a family.
Yeah, they did some ridiculous things. Yeah. But saying all of that about women and about the science, the scientist in the film actually surprisingly well represented.
Yeah, I mean, he is it's quite, I would say, it was an interesting portrayal. Yeah. Because he is still ignored or like questioned by some authorities. The thing, I thought that was quite good. So like the first thing I wrote down was like, it's potentially accurate about politicians that's what
trivializing science issues, which, you know, I mean, you just look at the news recently and people ignoring science and that kind of thing. We're not a political podcast. No more. But anyway, yes. So, and also there's a high expectation of perfection from him.
Yeah.
So, and he actually admits that he's wrong at one point, which is quite
to the president himself.
To the president, and the president actually responds with, "Do you know how many times anyone said I'm wrong in this office? None." Which is, I think, is really good, because it kind of shows that a lot of people do just expect the scientist to have all of the answers.
Yeah.
And also he's not.
It does still continue throughout though, because there like other authority figures, so like from the military or I don't know if he's the vice president or something.
I think he just says
like, well, it was your prediction and your prediction was wrong.
Which I thought was really interesting. I also like that they didn't do the everyman scientist thing. So he was a geologist, which is quite nice as well, because that's quite an underrepresented branch of science, I find. And he geologized. He didn't
pretend to be able to do all of the other sciences.
No, he didn't talk about like the evolutionary biology of what was going to happen afterwards. Like somebody else brings up the genetics of putting a certain group of people on the ark, and I mean, he makes a snide comment about how big a bank account matters when it comes to genetics, but he doesn't go into any detail on that. And also he works with an astrophysicist who's the guy that tells him about the neutrinos coming from the sun, but the geologist is the one that, you know, all he's talking about, inaccurately as it is, he's the one talking about plate tectonics and time predictions and that kind of thing.
So he's staying within his own field.
Within his field, which is quite rare for movie scientists.
Yeah, exactly. Because like studies into how much people know on certain subjects and like general science knowledge, if you're a scientist, you're going to have just general knowledge on everything other than your very specific speciality.
Yeah.
You can't be expected just to know all of the things about all of the things.
Yeah.
Which is really common.
This is, again, Hannah and I had an exam the other week about science and how it relates to society, which is where I think this information's coming from. But this paper that we both read mentions that there isn't a gap in knowledge between scientists and the public. There's a gap between experts in a subject and non-specialists. So if you're, so like I did a biochemistry degree, I don't know very much at all about physics. I know a little bit because of what I'm interested in, but no more than a lay person would be if they were also had the same level of interest as I do in physics.
Because in that other area you are also a layperson.
Yeah, exactly. So
but it's a really common portrayal in sort of Hollywood, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
To have a scientist that says they specialise in one thing but then can magically do all of the other things. They're like, oh well, actually if I translate some of this information that I have about this thing, I might be able to make something that will fix the world forever.
Yeah, well, I guess there is a thing about, like, if you are a scientist and you are science-minded, you might be able to design a certain, experiment, and you might have a sort of an advantageous starting point, but you don't know all the facts about things. Whereas in Hollywood, you seem to quite often get kind of, the doctor who is also an astrophysicist, who is also,
a marriage counsellor or something.
Yeah, exactly.
He just does a lot of things.
But no, so good scientist, played by Ejiofor, I think.
Ejiofor.
We got the last name down. First name, not so much.
We looked it up. We looked up a pronunciation, but that was a while ago.
Yeah. But he's also in Doctor Strange.
Is he?
Yep.
What does he do in that one?
He is... It's kind of hard to explain. We'll cover that in the Doctor Strange episode, which we may or may not do.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, he is not white. So although he is a male scientist, he is a person of colour, which is nice because, I mean, we've talked about the stereotype of...
They do have that stereotypical guy in the background.
Oh, yeah, no, he's there
so
in the in his bow tie with his back-combed hair.
Mm-hmm.
But the lead... Actually, both of the lead scientists, the astrophysicist as well as Indian, the stereotypical movie scientist is actually a more minor part. He's got a family.
He's got good personal skills, interpersonal skills, which I think is really important because a lot of other representations miss that out.
What's really nice as well is he's actually the one that argues the ethics, which I think that people forget a lot of the time. So it's basically, it turns into a scientist versus government thing, which happens a lot in movies. Well, we kind of covered that in Thor a little bit. But it's the scientist in this situation who talks about the ethics. And I think a lot of people forget about that, is that scientists have to consider ethics more than almost anyone else.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of people just see scientists as, you know, emotional robots who don't care about the consequences of their experiments.
Or emotionless robots.
Yeah.
I was reading earlier about how, I think it was 31% of Americans thought that scientists would put the public before their own interests.
Yeah, no, and that's absolutely ridiculous because, I mean, scientists might sort of, you know, moan about having to go up in front of ethics committees, but that's in the same way as anyone would have to deal with any sort of red tape. It's annoying. But no, scientists really do have to consider ethics in the proposal stages of their experiments. It's not that, you know, they just plough on ahead and then say sorry. You know, to get funding, they have to be very careful about ethics. So I really like that it's the scientist who's going, what do you mean we can't let all of these people on? We have to let them on. Yeah. It's not, you know, it's inhuman not to. I'm pretty sure he actually uses the phrase inhuman at one point.
Yeah, he does appeal to their humanity. He has a nice little speech. Yeah. Got everybody up on the screens to watch it.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. His speech changes the course of the plot in the last few hours of the film. In the last few minutes of the film, which is great. I mean, it is still a bit science versus government. The government are the ones who are like, no, that is just the way it's gonna work. And you get the impression that the geneticists possibly are emotionless because they're the ones that have chosen, bizarrely, only the super rich to repopulate the earth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do actually think that might be a little bit accurate because he's right in... I'm just going to call him vice president. I don't know who he is. He said that without the funding of the super rich who bought their tickets, they wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. Yeah. Which I think, you know, it's got a point.
True. Yeah.
And it's, not that I agree with it, but I think that potentially would be the way it would work.
Yeah, you'd probably have to do something along the lines of balancing out that genetics but sort of subsidising. Business class on planes subsidise economy. That's why business class is so expensive, because most of the time it's called business class because most of the time it is businesses that pay for it, not just rich people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, really rich people just have their own planes, don't they? Don't travel with the plebs. But yeah, so I guess that if there were to be an apocalypse arc situation to get the private funding, because I mean, what were they saying about tickets? Tickets were like $1 billion or something.
€1 billion, I think.
€1 billion.
Because he's talking to
a king.
Yeah, I think he's a king, and he says like $1 billion is a lot of money, and he gets corrected.
Actually, sir, I'm sorry, it's €1 billion.
I'm not sure of the conversion rate, but I think that means it's more.
Yeah. Back in 2009, when currency was different, I don't know.
Back when things were good.
What else?
I did particularly like. There was one reviewer that I read about. It was Robert Herbert. I'm going to call him. He said like that a
French person saying Herbert. Sorry.
It continues the very popular theme of destroying national monuments. So in Day After Tomorrow, you see the Statue of Liberty just like covered in snow, like completely snowed under.
That's the fault of the director. It's not disaster films. It's specifically our dear friend Roland Emmerich.
And then this one, So first of all, we see the statue of Jesus the Redeemer in Brazil.
Which we had a little conversation about why they always destroy that statue in
Yeah,
any apocalypse film. They always seem to
think
cut.
it's like some kind of like undertone that like God has abandoned us. That's what I think it is. It's like, you know, our savior is dead. This is it.
I think that
but
it's
also
a bit
very
strange
dramatic.
though, because I think that honestly, it's a really big statue on top of a mountain. It's probably not very stable.
No, probably not.
Like, because I mean, I guess that kind of shows you something about cultural differences as well. Because if it was a disaster film set in the UK, I mean, at the end of 28 Weeks Later, you see zombies around the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Like, it's in the like post-credit scene.
Oh, I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later. Only 28 days
I've
later.
only seen 28 Weeks Later. Okay, we might have to swap zombie films. But yeah, so like if it's because that's based in the UK, and so you see stuff like Big Ben and the Eiffel Tower, and you know that's the kind of thing that we see. Whereas in the Americas, they're kind of neighbouring country disaster. I mean, it's not neighbouring. I know it's not. But you know, the closer to home geography is the Christ the Redeemer statue.
More familiar with.
Yeah,
because if it's based in Europe, usually you see like the Eiffel Tower getting
maybe
messed
as far
up.
as the pyramids and the Great Wall of China.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the Great Wall of China get messed up in a film, but the pyramids.
Have you not seen Mulan?
Do they get messed up?
No, they just come. They just come over.
They just go over.
I'm sorry,
you've ruined it.
Spoilers for Mulan.
There's definitely a film in which the Houses of Parliament get messed up, and I'm not talking about V for Vendetta.
I was about to say.
I can't remember which one it is, but also V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta, good film.
Very good film. Okay, I think probably we've exhausted our limited notes because we did talk a lot as well.
For a 3-hour film, there's
round
not
up.
a whole lot
Round
to
up to
say.
5.
There's not a lot to say about it.
No, it's fast paced, I guess.
It
but
is.
It's fast paced for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of destruction.
We were really tired. We watched it and then we were really tired.
We had watched another film before though.
And
an entire film and also some TV. So I feel like
for the podcast, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
The things we do for you. To be fair, we didn't quite realise how long this film was before we started watching it at like 5.
Interestingly, it came out around the same time as The Road, I think. The Road, which is based on a novel by Cormac McCarthy. Very, very dark, very bleak end of the world story, which is very quiet, I'm going to say. Okay. Because this one is very loud and explodey.
Very loud.
Is it T.S. Eliot or Hemingway that says the world ends with a whimper?
Ooh.
Not a bang. So
I haven't heard.
Not with a bang, but a whimper. Yeah.
Okay, that's a nice quote. So should we end with a whimper?
Let's do that.
So, thanks for listening. Follow us on Twitter at xx_science. Leave your comments on suggestions for any films. We've had a comment.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Go us.
We've had a comment, so we're very proud of that now.
Is it Rob?
It was Rob. Thanks, Rob. I've been Beth.
I've been Hannah.
And this has been the XX Podcast.